Hello students, good morning and welcome back to my 37th video for class 10 social science economics part. So this is chapter 3 money and credit part 14. So in our last class we have discussed the topic formal and informal credit, who gets what. So the population of the urban areas were divided into four groups, starting from poor household with few assets, well-off household and rich household. And there we have seen that 85% of the loan is from the informal sector in case of poor households, and only 15% of the loan is from the formal sector. In case of household with few assets, 53% is from the informal sector and 47 from the formal sector. In case of well-off household, 28% is from informal sector and 72% from formal sector. And in case of rich household, it is just the opposite of the poor household, 90% from the formal sector and only 10% from the informal sector. So what did we get? What this graph shows that only 10% of the loan are from informal sector in case of rich household, while 90% are from formal sector. Okay, so the poor household, they are deteriorated. Okay, and the similar pattern it is also followed in the rural areas. The rich household are getting cheap credit from the formal lenders, whereas the poor household, they have to pay a large amount for borrowing. Okay, they used to get loan only from the informal sector because 85% of the loan are taken by the poor household from the informal sector. So these loans carries a high rate of interest, and the poor people, they have to pay a high rate of interest along with the principal amount of the loan. Okay, on the other hand, rich household, they used to get cheap credit. Okay, they used to get cheap credit. So what does this suggest is that the formal sector, they still meet only half of the total credit needs of the rural people. Okay, and the remaining credit needs are met from the informal sector. Okay, so what can we say, students, that most loan from informal sectors, they used to carry a high rate of interest and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. So it is necessary that banks and cooperative increase their lending, particularly in the rural areas, so that dependence on formal sources of credit reduces. Okay, next thing is that while the formal sector loan need to expand, it should make sure that it should ensure that everyone receives the loan, from the rich to the poor. Okay, so it is now at present, it is the richer people who are getting the formal credit at cheap rate, but the poor, they are depending on the informal sources. So it is important that with the expansion of the formal source credit, the formal credit should also be distributed more equally, so that the people, poor people, can benefit from the cheaper loans. Okay, so students, our next topic is self-help groups. So in our last video, I have shown you what is self-help group through a video. So I think the video have made you clear the concept of self-help group. So what is self-help group? It is Atma Sahayak Gut. Okay, you all have heard, I think. Okay, so what is self-help group? If I ask you what is a self-help group, so you can write that it is a financial intermediary committee, usually composed of 15 to 20 women or men, So it may consist of women also, it may consist of men also, but usually we have seen women, okay, in Atmahohaya Good. Okay, so self-help group, it is a financial intermediary committee usually composed of 15 to 20 women or men between the age group of 18 to 40 years. Okay, so till now we have seen that the poor household, they are still dependent on the informal source. Okay, so from this graph we have seen there, the poor household, they are dependent on the informal sector for loans. Okay, so why it is so? Why the poor people have always dependent on the informal sector and not the formal sector? So students, let us now discuss about self-help group for the poor. Okay, so poor households are still dependent on formal sources of credit. Why? So why the poor people are still dependent on informal source of credit which bear a high rate of interest? Because banks are not present everywhere in rural India. Okay, so most of the bank which we have seen, it is located in the urban areas, it is not present in the rural areas. Okay, so banks, first reason is banks are not present in rural area, and even when there are few banks present in the rural area, getting a loan from the bank is much more difficult than taking a loan from the informal source. So it is much easier to take loan from the informal source than that of a formal source. Okay, so you need to make various formalities, you need to submit something, what it is called collateral, you need to give collateral, you need to apply for a loan, and it is not that today you have applied for a loan and you will get the loan today itself. It is not like that, right? So there are certain formalities in taking a loan from the formal sector. Okay, so even though there are some banks in rural areas, they getting a loan from those bank is not a easy task, okay, then like that of the informal source. So we saw in the case of Megha, okay, in the earlier story we have seen that bank loan requires proper documentation and collateral, right? So bank used to ask for certain documents also, and also collateral against giving a loan. So the next reason is absence of collateral is one of the major reason which prevents the poor from getting bank loans. So the poor people, they do not have much documents, okay, they are not aware of taking out PAN card, Aadhaar card, voter card, etc. Okay, so they don't want to get into all these difficulties, so they used to go for the easier way of taking loan, that is from the informal sector. Okay, so absence of collateral is one of the major reason which prevents the poor people from taking loans from the formal sector, that is bank. So they used to go for the easy way, that is the informal sector. Okay, so the informal lenders such as money lenders knows the borrower personally, right? So from whom they used to take the loan, the money lenders, they used to know the person, the farmers or the poor people personally, and they used to give the loan then that day itself, okay, when they go for asking the loan. Okay, so they knows the borrower personally, and then they are also willing to give the loan without collateral, so they do not ask for any collateral from the borrower. The money lenders, they used to give away the loan. Why? Because they know that person personally, they know their house, they know where they what they used to do, where he used to live, right? So the informal lenders knows the borrowers personally and is will to give a loan without collateral. Okay, so the borrowers can approach the money lenders even without paying their earlier loans also. They can go and ask for loan, and they do not need to pay any collateral also. Okay, so the money lender, they used to give the loan that day itself, but they used to charge a very high rate of interest keeping no records of the transaction and harass the poor borrowers afterwards. Okay, so it is easier for taking the loan from the informal sector easily. We can go and ask as a borrower. If you go and ask the moneylender that give me a loan of 50,000, he will directly give you the 50,000 rupees as a loan. He will not ask for any documents, he will not ask for any collateral, he will not ask anything, because he knows you personally, he knows where you stay, he knows what you used to do. So if you cannot to pay the loan, he will go and give pressure on you, on your family. So the it is for informal sector loan, it is easier to get, but afterwards it's create a problem for the poor people. Okay, students, so this self-help group has been established. Okay, so this one we will be discussing it in our next class. Okay, till here go through and we will be discussing in the next class the rest part of this chapter. Okay, thank you.